Hello guys, welcome to the Expensive Coins History Channel. There is something extraordinary about the small objects we pass through our hands every day without a second thought. A coin drops onto a table, slides across a counter, disappears into a drawer, or rests quietly in a jar for years. Most people see only pocket change. But sometimes, very rarely, one of those coins carries a story that turns ordinary metal into something astonishing. A story of rarity. A story of history, and sometimes a story of life-changing value. Today, we are diving into 5 Washington quarter coins that collectors across the United States search for with incredible determination. These are coins that look ordinary to most people but can command prices that rival luxury cars, investment portfolios, or even the down payment on a home. And the most fascinating part is this. Some of these coins were once circulating in everyday pocket change. So before you spend another quarter, before you toss one into a jar or hand it to a cashier, watch this video carefully. Because one small detail on a coin could change everything. Expensive Coins History Channel, where we explore the hidden stories and shocking values behind the world's most fascinating coins. If you enjoy discovering treasures hiding in everyday places, make sure you stay with us until the end of this video, because what you learn here could genuinely change the way you look at money forever. And today's journey begins with a coin that many Americans have seen countless times. Yet very few understand its hidden rarity. The Washington quarter has been part of American life since 1932, originally introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the decades, it became one of the most recognizable coins in the United States. Billions were minted, and generations of Americans carried them in their pockets. Because of this massive production, most people assume Washington quarters are common and rarely valuable. But numismatics, the study and collection of coins, often tells a different story. Within the massive sea of ordinary coins, small variations, minting quirks, and rare high-grade survivors can create coins that collectors will compete fiercely to own. The first coin in our story today is the 1987 D Washington quarter. At first glance, the 1987 D quarter appears completely ordinary. It carries the familiar portrait of George Washington on the front, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. Washington faces left, dignified and calm, with the word liberty above and the phrase "I in God we trust" to the side. The year 1987 rests just below the portrait, and a tiny letter D marks that this coin was produced at the Denver Mint. Flip the coin over and you see the classic reverse design that Americans knew for decades. A powerful eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches beneath it. The inscriptions "United States of America" and quarter dollar frame the design, with the proud national motto "E pluribus unum" above the eagle. Millions upon millions of these coins were produced in Denver during 1987. They moved quickly into circulation, appearing in vending machines, parking meters, grocery stores, and change counters all across the country. For most Americans at the time, this coin was nothing more than 25 cents. But time has a way of changing the story. Over the years, collectors began to notice something interesting about the 1987 D quarter. While many circulated examples are extremely common, finding one in pristine, near-perfect condition is far more difficult than most people would expect. Coins that travel through everyday commerce suffer damage constantly. They bump against other coins, scrape against metal surfaces, and gradually lose their sharp details. High-grade examples, coins that somehow avoided heavy circulation and remained almost flawless, became surprisingly scarce. Professional coin grading services evaluate coins under magnification, carefully examining the smallest details. They measure strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and the presence of even the tiniest marks. When a Washington quarter from 1987 D survives in exceptional mint state condition with strong strike quality and nearly perfect surfaces, collectors begin to take serious interest. And this is where the story becomes fascinating. At major numismatic auctions, certain extremely high-grade examples of the 1987 D Washington quarter have stunned collectors with their value. Coins that once circulated for 25 cents have achieved astonishing prices when preserved at the very highest quality levels. Right in the middle of our story, it's time to reveal the number that surprises almost everyone who hears it for the first time. A rare, top-grade example of the 1987 D Washington quarter has been valued at around $43,000. Yes, $43,000 for a coin most people would overlook without a second glance. Imagine discovering that a quarter sitting quietly in a forgotten drawer could hold that kind of value. Imagine the moment a collector looks at a small piece of metal and realizes it represents years of history and thousands of dollars in the marketplace. That is the magic of coin collecting. Collectors in the United States and around the world spend years searching through rolls of coins, estate collections, bank boxes, and inherited jars of change, hoping to find examples that survived in exceptional condition. For many serious collectors, the thrill of the hunt is just as powerful as the value itself. But beyond the money, there is another dimension to these coins. Each one carries a piece of American history. Each one passed through the hands of people living their daily lives, buying groceries, paying for bus rides, feeding parking meters, or saving coins for their children. A coin like the 1987 D. Washington quarter may have traveled thousands of miles and passed through hundreds of hands before eventually landing in a collector's case. When a coin survives that long journey in extraordinary condition, it becomes more than currency. It becomes a historical artifact. And that is exactly why collectors pay such remarkable prices. Here on Expensive Coins History Channel, we explore these stories because they remind us that treasure doesn't always come from shipwrecks or ancient ruins. Sometimes treasure sits quietly in everyday places. Coin jars, desk drawers, or forgotten boxes in the attic. If you are someone who has saved coins over the years, especially if you are part of the generation that grew up handling physical money every day, this hobby can become incredibly rewarding. Many viewers between the ages of 35 and 65 have told us that coin collecting reconnects them with memories of childhood, family traditions, and the excitement of discovering something valuable in the most unexpected places. And that is why we always say one important thing on this channel. Never underestimate the coins in your possession. Look closely at the dates. Look for mint marks like the tiny D beneath the year. Pay attention to the condition of the coin, how sharp the details appear, how bright the surfaces remain. Sometimes the smallest differences create the biggest surprises. Before we continue to the next rare Washington quarter on our list, take a moment to think about the coins you may already have at home. A jar of quarters collected over decades might contain pieces that deserve a closer look. Stay with us until the end of this video, because the coins we reveal later become even more surprising, and one of them might already be hiding in someone's pocket change today. Stories like these are exactly why collectors keep searching, keep studying, and keep exploring the fascinating world of numismatics. And here on Expensive Coins History Channel, our mission is simple: to bring those hidden stories to light and help people understand that even the smallest piece of metal can carry extraordinary value. The 1987 D. Washington quarter is just the beginning. In the next chapter of our journey, we will explore another coin that shocked collectors with its hidden rarity, the mysterious and highly sought-after 1995 P. Washington quarter. And trust me, its story is just as surprising. There is a certain moment that every coin collector remembers. It is the moment when an ordinary coin suddenly stops being ordinary. When the light hits the surface just right, when the details appear sharper than expected, when the mint mark reveals itself beneath the date, and suddenly the person holding that coin realizes they might be looking at something special. For many collectors across the United States, that moment has happened while examining a coin that millions of people once ignored completely, the 1995 P. Washington quarter. If you have ever handled a quarter from the 1990s, you already know the design well. The familiar portrait of George Washington dominates the obverse side of the coin. His profile is strong, dignified, and unmistakable. Above his head sits the word Liberty, a reminder of the ideals that shaped the United States. To the side appears the phrase "In God We Trust," a motto that has been part of American coinage for generations. Below Washington's portrait sits the year 1995. And just beside that date is a tiny letter that many people overlook, the letter P. That single letter tells an important story. It means the coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most historically significant mints in the United States. For decades, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of coins that circulated across the country. In 1995, the United States Mint produced a massive number of Washington quarters. These coins flowed through banks, grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and every corner of American commerce. For most people, they were simply everyday money. 25 cents used to buy a newspaper, a cup of coffee, or a parking meter ticket. But something fascinating happens over time in the world of coins. Most coins are used heavily. They travel through thousands of transactions. They slide across counters, jingle in pockets, and rub against other coins. With every exchange, the fine details wear down slightly. Tiny scratches appear. The bright mint luster fades. Because of this, coins that survive in truly exceptional condition become extremely rare. The 1995 P. Washington quarter is a perfect example of this phenomenon. While millions were produced, very few survived in near-perfect mint state condition with sharp strike details and flawless surfaces. For collectors who demand the highest possible quality, finding such an example can be incredibly difficult. Professional grading companies examine these coins under powerful magnification. Experts study every tiny detail, the clarity of Washington's hair, the strength of the lettering, the brilliance of the coin's original mint luster, and the absence of marks or damage. Only a tiny fraction of coins ever achieve the highest grades. And when they do, collectors begin to compete for them. Over the past several years, high-grade examples of the 1995 P. Washington quarter have captured the attention of serious collectors and auction houses. Coins that once circulated through ordinary daily life suddenly became prized collectibles when preserved in extraordinary condition. Now comes the moment in our story that always surprises viewers. Right here in the middle of our journey, it is time to reveal the astonishing value that collectors have placed on this coin, a rare, top-condition example of the 1995 P. Washington quarter has been valued at around $30,000. Yes, $30,000 for a coin that most people would casually spend, without thinking twice. Think about that for a moment. A single quarter. 25 cents in everyday spending power. Yet under the right circumstances, with the right preservation and the right collector demand, that same coin can become worth tens of thousands of dollars. This is why collectors across the country search through rolls of quarters obtained from banks. They examine old coin jars inherited from relatives. They carefully inspect coins found in estate collections and forgotten boxes. Because once in a while, the unexpected happens. And when it does, the discovery can be extraordinary. Here on Expensive Coins History Channel, we often hear from viewers who tell us they began checking their change after watching one of our videos. Some rediscovered coins they had saved decades earlier. Others began learning about mint marks, strike quality, and coin grading. For many people between the ages of 35 and 65, coin collecting becomes more than a hobby. It becomes a connection to history. Every coin represents a moment in time. It represents the year it was minted, the economy of that era, the technology used at the mint, and the countless people who handled it along its journey. The 1995 P. Washington quarter may have passed through a grocery store in Chicago, a gas station in Texas, or a diner in California before eventually finding its way into a collector's hands. And yet the coin itself remains unchanged, a small piece of metal quietly carrying its story through decades. Collectors often describe the search for rare coins as a treasure hunt that never truly ends. Every bankroll, every coin jar, every inherited collection could hold a hidden surprise. Sometimes those surprises come in the form of minting errors. Sometimes they come from unusual die varieties. And sometimes, as in the case of the 1995 P. Washington quarter, the surprise comes from exceptional condition, a coin that somehow escaped the wear and damage that most coins experience. Those rare survivors become the jewels of the collecting world. And that is exactly why auctions occasionally produce astonishing results. Imagine attending a coin auction where collectors gather from around the country. The room is quiet as the auctioneer lifts a small plastic slab containing a perfectly preserved coin. The grading label confirms its extraordinary condition. Bidding begins. The numbers climb quickly as collectors compete for ownership. What started as 25 cents decades earlier becomes thousands of dollars in moments. For the winning bidder, the coin is more than an investment. It is a piece of American history captured in metal. Moments like these remind us that value is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, so before you spend your next quarter, take a closer look. Examine the date. Look for the mint mark. Notice the condition. Is the coin unusually bright? Are the details sharp and well-defined? Small observations can lead to big discoveries. And that is exactly why we encourage every viewer of Expensive Coins History Channel to stay curious and keep learning. because the next coin we are about to explore might surprise you even more. The story continues with another fascinating Washington quarter, the 1995 D coin from the Denver Mint. A coin that circulated widely across America, yet under the right circumstances has captured the attention of collectors willing to pay remarkable amounts to own it. So stay with us until the end of this video. What you learn here could truly change the way you look at the coins in your pocket. And who knows, it might even change your life. There is something deeply fascinating about the journey of a coin. Long before collectors examine it under magnification, before auction houses display it under bright lights, before anyone realizes its potential value, that coin begins its life in a loud and powerful place, the United States Mint. Machines roar. Metal blanks move rapidly through presses. Enormous pressure stamps designs into the surface of the metal. Within seconds, a blank piece of metal becomes an official coin of the United States. Most of those coins will never become famous. Most will never be discussed by collectors or featured in auctions. They will do what they were created to do: move through everyday life, quietly facilitating millions of transactions. But once in a while, one of those coins survives differently than the others. It avoids the heavy wear of circulation. It escapes the scratches, dents, and damage that most coins accumulate over time. And decades later, when collectors examine it carefully, they realize they are looking at something far more special than an ordinary coin. That brings us to the next fascinating chapter of our journey today, the 1995 D Washington quarter. Just like the other coins we have discussed, this quarter carries the iconic design that Americans have known for generations. On the front of the coin, George Washington's profile faces left, calm and dignified. Above him appears the word liberty, and beside his portrait sits the phrase "In God we trust." Below the portrait is the year 1995, but the most important detail for collectors sits just beside the date, the small letter D. That tiny letter represents the Denver Mint, one of the most productive coin mints in the United States. For decades, Denver has produced massive numbers of coins that entered circulation across the country. In 1995, the Denver Mint struck millions of Washington quarters. They were shipped to banks across America, distributed into circulation, and quickly became part of everyday financial life. People used them at grocery stores, laundromats, arcades, parking meters, and vending machines. Children collected them in piggy banks. Adults tossed them into drawers and jars without giving them a second thought. To most Americans, the 1995 D quarter was nothing more than pocket change. But coin collectors understand something that many people do not. Time changes the rarity of coins in surprising ways. While millions of coins are produced in a single year, the number of coins that survive in perfect or near-perfect condition can be incredibly small. Most coins quickly enter circulation, where they experience constant wear. They rub against other coins. They fall onto hard surfaces. They scrape against keys, metal trays, and countless pockets. Over time, those tiny interactions slowly erase the sharp details that existed when the coin first left the mint. This is why collectors place such extraordinary importance on condition. A coin that somehow avoids heavy circulation and remains in exceptional mint state condition becomes extremely desirable. Collectors call these coins high-grade survivors. They are like time capsules, coins that look almost as fresh as the day they were minted decades earlier. When experts examine a 1995 D Washington quarter under professional grading standards, they look at several key factors. The strike must be sharp, meaning the design details are fully formed and crisp. The surfaces must remain smooth and free of noticeable marks. The original mint luster, that brilliant glow created during the minting process, should still shine across the coin's surface. Only a tiny percentage of coins ever achieve these elite conditions. And when they do, collectors take notice. The market for high-grade Washington quarters has grown steadily over the years. Serious collectors search relentlessly for the finest examples available, and when one appears at auction, competition can become intense. That brings us to the moment in the story where the true surprise appears. Right here in the middle of this chapter, it is time to reveal the remarkable value attached to this coin. A rare, exceptionally preserved example of the 1995 D Washington quarter has been valued at around $27,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A coin that once purchased a soda from a vending machine could today represent a value of $27,000. For many people watching this video, Especially those who grew up using quarters regularly in daily life, that idea can feel almost unbelievable. But within the world of numismatics, it is a reality supported by collector demand, rarity in high grades, and the historical significance of these coins. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters understand just how difficult it is to assemble a set that includes only the finest known examples. When a coin appears that fills an important gap in a collection, bidders are often willing to pay extraordinary prices. And that is why stories like this continue to capture the imagination of collectors around the world. Here on Expensive Coins History Channel, we love sharing these stories because they remind people that treasures are not always buried underground or hidden in ancient ruins. Sometimes treasures sit quietly in ordinary places. A forgotten jar of coins on a kitchen shelf. A small box stored in the back of a closet. A collection inherited from parents or grandparents. Many viewers between the ages of 35 and 65 tell us that after watching our videos, they began examining coins they had saved decades earlier. For some, it became a relaxing hobby. For others, it became a fascinating journey into American history. Each coin tells a story: where it was minted, when it was created, how it traveled through the country, and sometimes, how it managed to survive in extraordinary condition. The 1995 D Washington quarter is one of those coins that reminds collectors why the search is so exciting. Even though millions were produced, the rare high-grade survivors stand apart as something truly special. Imagine the possibility that one of these coins could still be sitting unnoticed somewhere today. Perhaps in a roll of coins from a bank. Perhaps in an old coin jar that has not been opened in years. Or perhaps even in the loose change someone carries in their pocket right now. That possibility is exactly why collectors keep searching. And it is exactly why we encourage every viewer of Expensive Coins History Channel to stay curious and keep looking closely at the coins around them. Because the next coin in our story becomes even more fascinating. We are about to explore the 1990 D Washington quarter, a coin that once circulated across the United States like any other, yet under the right conditions has reached a value that surprises even experienced collectors. So stay with us until the very end of this video. Look carefully at the coins you already have. Because sometimes the smallest discoveries can become the most valuable ones. And who knows, the next quarter you examine might just hold a story powerful enough to change everything. There is a quiet thrill that runs through the world of coin collecting. It is not loud or dramatic like many other hobbies. Instead, it is a slow-building excitement, the kind that grows stronger every time someone examines a coin more closely and begins to realize that history, rarity, and value can all exist within something so small. For many collectors, the Washington Quarter series has become one of the most fascinating areas of American numismatics. These coins were never meant to be rare. They were designed for everyday use, created in enormous numbers to keep the American economy moving. Yet over the decades, certain dates and mint combinations have revealed unexpected scarcity when preserved in exceptional condition. That brings us to the next remarkable coin in today's journey, the 1990 D Washington quarter. To understand why this coin attracts so much attention among collectors, we first need to look at its origin. In 1990, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing coins that would soon circulate throughout the United States. The Washington quarter was already a familiar sight in American pockets by this time, having served the country for nearly 6 decades since its introduction in 1932. When the 1990 D quarter rolled off the presses in Denver, it looked exactly like the countless Washington quarters that came before it. On the front side of the coin, George Washington's classic profile appears once again, facing left with calm authority. The word liberty stands boldly above his head, while the phrase "In God We Trust" sits neatly beside his portrait. Below Washington's neck appears the year 1990. And right next to that year is the small but important mint mark, the letter D, identifying the Denver Mint as the place where this coin was produced. On the reverse side, the coin displays the powerful American eagle with wings fully spread. The eagle clutches arrows in its talons, symbolizing readiness to defend the nation, while olive branches represent peace. Above the eagle appears the national motto E Pluribus Unum, while the words United States of America and $quarter frame the design. It is a design that generations of Americans recognize instantly. But as coin collectors know very well, the design itself is only part of the story. The true mystery often lies in how well a coin has survived the passage of time. When the 1990 D quarters were released into circulation, They quickly entered the rhythm of everyday American life. They passed through grocery store registers, gas stations, bus fares, arcade machines, and parking meters. They moved from city to city and state to state. Some of them were handled thousands of times. Others were dropped, scratched, and worn as they moved through decades of transactions. Very few escaped that journey without damage. That is why collectors pay such close attention to coins that appear unusually well preserved. A high-grade coin is like a small time capsule. It carries the original shine and detail that existed the moment it left the mint. Under magnification, the surfaces remain smooth and bright. The lines in Washington's hair appear crisp. The feathers on the eagle are sharply defined. These are the coins that collectors dream of finding. Professional grading services evaluate these coins with extraordinary care. They examine the strike quality, the surface preservation, the brightness of the original mint luster, and even the tiniest imperfections that might reduce the grade. Most coins never achieve the highest levels of grading. But once in a while, a coin appears that seems almost untouched by time. When that happens, the collecting community takes notice. Serious collectors who are building high-quality Washington quarter sets often compete for these rare survivors. Because if a collector wants to assemble one of the finest sets in existence, every coin must be nearly perfect. And that is not easy when dealing with coins that were originally intended for everyday spending. Now comes the moment that truly surprises many people watching videos like this. Right here in the middle of this chapter, it is time to reveal the remarkable value that the 1990 D Washington quarter can reach under the right circumstances. A rare, top-grade example of the 1990 D Washington quarter has been valued at approximately $33,000 for a coin that once held a face value of just 25 cents. Imagine the journey that coin must have taken. From the roaring presses of the Denver Mint in 1990, into the hands of workers packaging coins for distribution, then into banks and businesses across the country. Perhaps it was saved by someone who appreciated coins. Perhaps it was placed into a small collection and forgotten for years. Or perhaps it remained sealed in a roll, untouched while time quietly passed. However it survived, its remarkable condition eventually brought it to the attention of collectors. And when collectors compete for coins like this, the results can be astonishing. Stories like these are exactly why coin collecting continues to capture the imagination of so many people, especially those who grew up during the era when physical coins were part of everyday life. Many viewers of Expensive Coins History Channel fall into the age range of 35 to 65 or older. For them, coins carry memories, trips to local stores, childhood savings jars, family coin collections passed down through generations. When people rediscover those coins later in life, they often begin to look at them differently. They start to notice the dates. They begin to recognize mint marks. They learn about grading, rarity, and collector demand. And sometimes, they discover that the coins they once ignored may hold surprising value. That is why we always encourage our viewers to stay curious and examine the coins they already have. It does not require expensive equipment to begin. A simple magnifying glass and careful attention can reveal details most people overlook. Look for unusual brightness. Look for sharp details. Look for coins that appear almost untouched. Because somewhere out there, a rare coin might still be waiting to be discovered, and that possibility is what keeps collectors searching year after year. Here on Expensive Coins History Channel, we believe every coin tells a story about history, craftsmanship, and the incredible journeys these small pieces of metal can take over decades. The 1990 D Washington quarter is just one more reminder that sometimes the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary secrets. But our journey today is not finished yet. There is still one more Washington quarter left on our list, a coin that many people have seen, yet very few understand its surprising potential. Next, we will explore the 1998 D Washington quarter, a coin whose story has caught the attention of collectors and continues to inspire people to search through their pocket change with new curiosity. So stay with us until the end of this video. Because sometimes the smallest discovery can become the most exciting one. And who knows, the next quarter you examine might just be the coin that changes everything. There is something almost poetic about the journey of coins through time. Unlike many other historical objects that sit quietly in museums or private collections, coins live active lives. They move from hand to hand, From city to city, from one generation to the next. They witness ordinary moments of everyday life, purchases, savings, gifts, and memories. Most of the time, these small pieces of metal are simply tools for commerce. But occasionally, a coin survives its journey in such remarkable condition that collectors begin to view it differently. Instead of just money, it becomes a rare artifact of American history. That brings us to the final coin in today's fascinating journey, the 1998 D Washington Quarter. By the late 1990s, the Washington Quarter had already been part of American currency for more than 60 years. It had become one of the most familiar coins in the country. Millions of Americans handled quarters daily, at grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and parking meters. In 1998, the Denver Mint once again produced millions of Washington quarters to keep up with the demand of the U.S. economy. At the time, no one believed these coins would ever become anything special. They were simply quarters. But as we have seen again and again in the world of coin collecting, time has a way of changing the story. The design of the 1998 D quarter remains the classic one Americans recognize instantly. On the front of the coin, George Washington's portrait appears exactly as it has for decades. The sculptor John Flanagan design gives Washington a calm, dignified expression, symbolizing leadership and stability. Above his head stands the word liberty. To the side sits the phrase "In God we trust." Below the portrait is the year, 1998, and beside that date sits the small mint mark that collectors immediately look for, the letter D, representing the Denver Mint. On the reverse side, the powerful eagle spreads its wings across the coin. In its talons it holds arrows and olive branches, symbols of strength and peace. Above the eagle appears the motto E Pluribus Unum, while the words United States of America and $quarter frame. The design.it is a design that defined American coinage for generations before the state quarters program began in 1999. In fact, the 1998 D Washington Quarter is part of the final era of the classic Washington reverse design before the United States Mint introduced the famous 50-state quarter series the following year. Because of this, some collectors view coins like the 1998 D as the closing chapter of a long and important period in American numismatic history. But history alone does not create value. Condition is everything. When the 1998 D quarters entered circulation, they experienced the same fate as most coins. They moved quickly through the economy. They were spent, exchanged, dropped, scratched, and worn down through thousands of transactions. Within a few years, many of them had already lost their bright mint luster. The sharp details began to soften. Tiny marks appeared across the surface. For most coins, this wear is inevitable, but occasionally, a coin avoids this journey. Perhaps it was saved in a collection. Perhaps it remained inside a sealed bank roll. Perhaps someone placed it into a drawer and forgot about it for years. When coins like this reappear decades later in nearly perfect condition, collectors become extremely interested. Professional grading services evaluate these coins carefully, using magnification and strict grading standards. They study the strike quality, the brightness of the mint luster, and the number of marks or imperfections on the coin's surface. Coins that achieve the highest grades become incredibly desirable. And that is exactly what happened with some rare high-grade examples of the 1998 D Washington Quarter. Now comes the moment that always captures the attention of viewers. Right here in the middle of this final chapter, we reveal the value that surprises so many people. A rare, top-condition example of the 1998 D Washington Quarter has reached an estimated value of around $24,000. For a coin that many people once used to buy a snack or pay a parking meter. Think about how incredible that transformation is. A simple quarter, something most people would not even pick up from the ground, can become a prized collectible worth thousands of dollars when preserved in exceptional condition. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching. Every year, thousands of coin enthusiasts examine rolls of coins from banks. They search through old family collections. They carefully inspect jars of change that have been sitting in kitchens and garages for decades. Most of the time, they find ordinary coins, but sometimes they discover something remarkable. Here on Expensive Coins History Channel, we believe that the world of coins is full of stories waiting to be discovered. Coins connect us to history in a way that few objects can. They travel through real lives, real hands, and real moments. For viewers between the ages of 35 and 65 or older, coins often carry a deep sense of nostalgia. Many people remember saving coins as children, filling piggy banks, or receiving change from their parents after a trip to the store. When those same coins are examined decades later, they can reveal surprises that no one expected. That is why we always encourage our viewers to take a closer look at the coins they already have. Check the dates. Look for mint marks like the small D from the Denver Mint or the P from Philadelphia. Examine the condition carefully. Sometimes a coin that looks ordinary at first glance may actually be something special. And who knows, one of the quarters sitting quietly in your home today could be far more valuable than you ever imagined. The 5 coins we explored today, the 1987D, the 1995P, the 1995D, the 1990D, and the 1998D Washington quarters, remind us that rarity and value often hide in the most unexpected places. Each of these coins once circulated through everyday life. Each of them looked completely ordinary. Yet under the right conditions, they became coins that collectors are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars to own. Before we finish today's journey, remember one important thing. Always look carefully at your coins. Treasure does not always appear in dramatic ways. Sometimes it hides quietly in a small piece of metal that passes through your hands every day. And if you enjoy discovering stories like these, make sure you continue exploring with us here on Expensive Coins History Channel. Stay curious, keep searching, and always remember to watch our videos until the very end, because the next coin we talk about might just be the one that changes the way you see money forever. And who knows, it might even change your life.